Hello friends, let's start Design HashMap. This is a very interesting question because they have asked us to build the hash map and they have told us to implement the class and also initialize the constructor. Then they have told us to implement these three methods, that is put, get and remove. Let me just give you a glance of what is this put, get and remove. So in the first method, that is put, they are giving us arguments of key and value. If we find the same key which they have given in the argument, then we just have to update the value. If the key itself is not present, then we have to add or insert that key value pair. Simple. Next is get. In get method, they have given us a argument of key. So if the key, if we have to iterate that particular entire array, and if we get that particular key, then we have to return its value. If we are not getting that key, we iterated, we've searched, and we are not getting that key, then we just have to return -1. That's the get method. I hope this is very clear. Next is the remove method. In remove method, they are giving us again an argument or parameter, that is key. And if we get that key, we are going to remove that key and value pair. But if we are not getting it, then we are just continuing our method. We are not doing anything, we are just continuing. So if we get a corresponding key, then we are just removing the value. That's the main important thing. I hope these three methods are clear. We just have to implement these three methods and a hash map class with a constructor. That is what we have to do it. And at the end, if you see, they have told us that in the question, they have told us that they have given us some constraint, but in the question they have also told us that you should not use built-in hash table libraries. So we cannot use something which is already built in. We have to implement our own hash map. So for implementing this hash map, we will need, one second, we'll need an array which is in this format. This is an array which consists of buckets, So this array represents buckets. Let me just write it. This array represents the bucket, and every bucket is having one entry class. What is this entry class? Nothing but a linked list. So every bucket is having an entry class. This entry class consists of key and value pair. It consists of key and value pair. So this is the basic structure of hash map, wherein this is an array which represents the buckets, and this bucket consists of each bucket consists of entry class, and entry class is in a form of a linked list. Why it is in form of a linked list? Because there are sometimes called as collisions, because we get different keys but the same bucket. If we are getting different keys and the same bucket, then there will be a collision. That's the reason we are going to have that's the reason we are going to have a linked list, so that we can enter as many key and value as we need, even if the buckets are same, so that we will avoid the collision. That is one thing. So every bucket will have a linked list which consists of an entry class. Every bucket will have a linked list which consists of an entry class. This is a basic data structure of hash map, and the size of this array is going to be 769. Why 769? Because we have to take a prime number so that hashing becomes easy. So that's the reason we are going to have this size as 769. What is hashing? Basically to search the bucket. Okay, where is the key? So we have to search the bucket. To find out the bucket, we need to do a calculation with the hashing formula, and that's the reason we are taking a prime number, so that largest prime number, so that it becomes easy for us in hashing. Generally hash map size is 16, but in this we are going to take 769 because we need to do the hashing very easily. So let's do this. Let's code this data structure. So what things we have to code here is, this is the initialization, right? So first thing is we have to create this entry class where we are going to include key and value pair. That's the first step which we are going to do it. Second step, I said that this entry class is initialized with linked list. It is a linked list, right? This is a linked list. So we have to initialize a linked list with an entry class. With what? With the entry class. That's the second step. Linked list with an entry class which represents in form of an array. So basically we are going to introduce or initialize this particular array in form of a linked list which contains entry class, which contains the entry class. So this array will be representing in form of a linked list which consists of entry class, and the size of the array will be 769. This is what we are going to do it, and size of an array will be 769. So let's start coding. Let me create the class public entry key value. This is, I'm creating a constructor key dot key equal to key this dot value equal to value. So we have completed the entry class where we are introducing key and value pair. Next is we need to initialize the data structure, right? We need to initialize the data structure. So let's do that. So as I told you that we have to initialize this data structure wherein we need a linked list of entry, linked list of array which contains entry class. So let's do that. Linked list. So this is the linked list which contains entry in form of an array. And now we have to initialize this, right? So also we have to, let me remove this main method, we don't need it right now. Also we need to have a size. Now we will have to initialize these two things, right? We have to initialize our map, our data structure, because they have told us that they need the class as well as they need the constructor to initialize. So let me do that. If you want, I can name this as my hash map. Let's initialize the constructor. This dot map equal to new linked list entry. New linked list of size. Size equal to 769. So this is the way we are going to get this entire initialization done. So once this main thing is completed, we are going to see those three methods which they have told us to code, right? So they have told us what are those three methods. They have told us the three methods, those are get, put, and remove. So first we are going to see the put method, because get is comes afterwards. First you have to insert something into the bucket, right? So that we are going to see the first method. So what is over here? The first thing first in put is we have this particular array, right, which consists of a bucket, right? And in the put they are giving us, key and value, right? So now we have to search a bucket which consists of this key and value. We have to search this bucket which consists of key and value. For that, we need to find the bucket, we need to do a hashing. What is the hashing formula? To find the bucket, key modulus of size. So we know the key, we know the size. With the help of this formula, we are going to find out the bucket. We are going to find out the bucket. Suppose we get this bucket, that is B3. If we find out the bucket, then there are again two conditions. If this bucket itself is empty, if this bucket itself is empty, then you have to add new entry class. Okay, I'm clear. First is the finding of a bucket. Second is if bucket itself is empty, then you have to you have to add new entry class which consists of key and value pair. But another scenario is if the bucket we get whatever, if I get this bucket and if this bucket already has the entry class, then I have to iterate in this entry class and search the key. If the key matches to whatever key they have given, then I just have to update the value. That's the third thing I have to do. Clear? If entry class is present, that is not null, so entry class is present, and then I get the key also from that entry class, then I just have to update the value. But if in case the key is present and value is not present, now again the thing is, another the concept over here is two concepts I have told you. One is the finding of bucket with a modulus operation. Second is once you get the bucket, you have to check whether entry is present. If entry itself is not present, then you have to add that entry. Third is we get the entry, we get the key which is same, and then we are updating the value, right? Now the fourth condition is if we don't get that key, okay, in this entry class, if suppose this is the fourth condition, I think this is little becoming messy, but so the fourth condition is, this is B4. The fourth condition is we get the entry class and we are not getting that particular key. We are searching in the entries. Where is the key? Where is the key? And we are not getting that key. Then in that case also you have to add key value pair. You have to add key value pair inside the entry class. So these are the four things we have to implement in our put method. In the put, okay, let me revise again. In the put, they are going to give us key and value pair. They are going to give us key and value pair, key and value as our argument or a parameter. With the help of this, we can find out the bucket. That's our first step. What is the first step? Is to finding the bucket. We are going to find the bucket with the help of formula key modulus size. Now we get this bucket, suppose we get B3, right? Now this B3 entry itself is not there, there is a missing entry, there is no linked list at all, then we have to add it in that particular bucket. That's the next step. Third step is, if in case we get the bucket which has the entry, which has the key which is given to us, then just update the value. Simple. Then last is, if we have got the bucket with this formula and we also get the entry, and then but I mean we are searching the key and we are not getting the key value, then you have to add the key and value pair. So this is what we are going to do it in our code. Let's start it. So first thing, again it's a void method, put, and we will be having key and value. Now let's see, we have to find the bucket first. So to find the bucket, we are going to use that key modulus of size. With the help of this, I'm going to find out that particular bucket. Now there are conditions where if map bucket equal to null, if that is completely null, then what I'm going to do is map bucket equal to new linked list. I'm going to create a new linked list in that bucket, and then I'm going to add the entry. So this is our first step, wherein if the bucket itself is empty, then we are going to add the linked list. Next step is we are going to iterate the entries. We are going to iterate the entries, and if we find the key which we needed, if we find the key which we needed, then we are just going to update the value. Simple. We are just going to update the value. Next thing is, if this is not the case, if this is not the case, we don't get the key, then what we are going to do is, we are just going to add the key value pair. This is all about the put method, wherein we said that if bucket is null, add the fresh entry with the linked list, and if you get the key, just update the value. Otherwise you have to add that particular key value in that particular bucket, in that particular map. Next, let's go to the next implementation of get. How to do the implementation of the get? Same thing, but there is a difference. Let's see that. Uh, so in the get method, we will be having, they are providing us in the get, they are providing us the key, right? And then we have to return something. Put was not to return, we just have to add. Get is something to return, right? Because we are returning the value. Now same thing as I told you in the previous method of put, we have to search the bucket first. How we are going to search the bucket? We know, right? The formula is, to search the bucket, we have the formula key modulus of size, right? So suppose we get this particular bucket, this particular bucket. Now we are going to whatever the bucket we have got, we get the entries, right? We get inside this entries, right? This bucket is mapped to this entries, right? Suppose if this entries itself is null, again the base condition is, if this entries itself is null, then return -1 because we have to return it. But if this entries are not null, what then happens? If these entries are not null, then iterate in this particular entries, and if our key is matching to the key in that particular entry, then return the value. That's it. That is what is the get method. So let me come back again. What we are doing is, first step is always same. We are searching the bucket. We got the bucket. This is the bucket. So the base condition is this itself is null. Okay. Then we are returning -1. Suppose this is not null. These entries are not null. There are values, there are keys in that. Then we get that particular key and which is matching to the one which they have provided in the argument. And then we return its value. That's it we are doing. Okay. If it is matching, if it is good, then we are returning that value. Let's code this. Sorry for this. Okay, let's code it. So first thing is we have to find the bucket, which is key modulus of size. Once we find the bucket, we are going to map the bucket to that particular entries. List entry. So I'm just going to map that bucket to my entries. Done. If entry is equal to null, because if there is nothing, then return -1. Simple. If that entry is itself is null, then return -1. If otherwise, you have to iterate in the entries. You have to iterate in the entries, and then if entry dot key equal to key, then return the value. If the key we get it is same as that of then return entry dot value, because we are returning the value from the entry class. Okay, so I hope you understood. We find the bucket, we mapped that entries to our bucket, and then if that entries itself is null, we are returning -1. Otherwise, we are iterating the entry, and if the key is mapping to the key which they have provided, then we are returning its value. If the key we don't find it, if suppose we are not getting this key at all, we are iterating into the entry and we are not finding the key at all, then what we are going to do is we are going to return -1. Simple. This is all about the get method. Let's see what we do it in the remove method. Let's see how to understand remove. So for the remove again, we need to have the same thing. We need the buckets. We need this array B1, B2, B3, and so on. So first thing in the remove, again it is, we are going to find the bucket. So again the same formula for the bucket to find out, that is key modulus of size. This is called as hashing technique. So key modulus of size is the formula to find out the bucket. Now we get the bucket. The base condition is, if this bucket is null, if the entries itself is null, then what we are going to do, we are just returning null. We are just not doing anything because because this is a remove method, right? So we are not going to do anything because in the remove they have just given us key, and it's a void method, so we don't have to return anything, we just have to remove it. So in this case we are not returning, we are just going to avoid it or continue it. We are not, we are going to skip it. If bucket itself is null, we cannot do anything. But if bucket consists of the value, if bucket consists of the entries, suppose this is a bucket which consists of the entries, okay, then we are going to map with its key, we are going to map with its key, and we are removing its value. We are going to remove that particular entry or that particular value. We are going to do that. And if we don't get the key after iterating into this entry, we don't get the key, then we cannot do anything. We are just going to continue our search operation or the remove operation. This is how we are going to handle the remove. So again, let me explain you one more time this remove. In remove, we are going to first find out the bucket. Once we get the bucket, we are going to see if the bucket is null, just skip it. Simple. If bucket consists of the entries, then we are going to iterate in this entry, find the key and remove the value. Otherwise, we are just going to skip it. And when you are removing any linked list, right, because over here we have to remove the linked list, right, we have to remove the linked list, so we need to initialize that linked list with a temporary variable that we have to do in the coding. So when we are removing this, we have to handle it properly. Linked list cannot be removed like that, so we have to initialize a variable, temporary variable, so that it will be easy for us to remove this particular linked list. Let's see in the coding how we can do that. So let's find the bucket. Again, sorry for this. Let's find the bucket. Modulus of size. Now, once we get the bucket, we have to check if map bucket equal to null, then return. We are not going to do anything, but otherwise we are iterating the entry class. We are iterating the entries. We are going to map the key. If we get the key, if entry dot key equal to key, entry dot key is same as that of key, then we are going to remove it. But how to remove? That is the main thing, right? Because to remove, we linked list cannot be removed as easily. So what we have to do is we have to initialize a variable, remove equal to null. This is just a initialization of that variable. This to remove is a variable or temporary variable, will consist of that entry. Whatever we need to remove will consist of that entry in the to remove. And now we just have to remove this completely. So now once we have that entry in that to remove, we are going to say if to remove equal to null, if that is also null, then return. Don't do anything, skip it. Otherwise we have to remove it. Okay, dot remove That's it. Uh, that's it about the coding. This is what is removal method, wherein we are just checking first in the bucket. If it is null, we are not doing anything. If it's not null, then we are iterating the key and iterating the entries, and if we get that key, we are putting that, inserting into the variable to remove it. Again, we are searching value is empty or not. If it is empty, we are just not, cannot do anything, right? We are just continuing. That is what I have written, and if we get it, then we are removing it from our bucket. So that's it. It is of one time complexity, and it's very easy. Just you have to understand the concept of hash map. That's it from my end. Thank you for watching.